I've been making top 10 since 2011, and after 7 years I finally made over 100 of these things. While most of the top 10s have brought in a lot of people that watch me today, there's a handful of top 10s I'm not so fond of. I thought it would be fun to reflect and see which videos were the worst of the worst. So without further ado, let's go. To start, we have a collab top 10. This was done with a YouTube channel called Press Start TV. At the time, I was working with these guys to help try to grow their channel, and in the end, it didn't work at all for reasons I'm not going to disclose, and honestly, the collab kind of ruined this video. It was a lot of fun talking about Mario Kart Super Circuit because it's a pretty underrated Mario Kart title, and I really enjoyed writing the script for the tracks. But I decided to go with Press Start's microphone for this one, and was told that it was better than what I had.
There's not much else to say aside from the simple fact that this is a really awesome track.
Why I listened to them, I have no idea. Now, no disrespect to Press Start, but the other person who I won't name just didn't know how to read the script properly. He sounded very awkward, and it just wasn't genuine at all.
To start, the Sphinx in the background is a Yoshi head. I don't care who you are, this is just flat out epic and hilarious at the same time.
Now, I don't think it was entirely his fault. What I should have done was show him the script ahead of time and make sure he rewrites his parts in a manner that made it more natural for him to say. And honestly, I don't think I did that great a job reading the script either. My environment wasn't at my own home like it usually is, and I was just all thrown off. At least the footage looked really good, but man, this could have turned out so much better.
This has got to be one of the hardest lists I've ever had to put together.
This has got to be one of the hardest videos to listen to. For some reason, my mic was just not working the day I recorded this video. Like, good lord. I'm not sure what happened that day, like maybe I was recording with a webcam and didn't even realize it. I don't know, knowing me, that's probably what happened. Sadly, I would have had better quality using my video camera mic. Like, geez, I just can't get over the fact that I even used this and considered it to be acceptable. Quite frankly, its sheer atrocity in the audio department has earned itself a spot on this list. I think my stage choices are still pretty good and hold up, and the video does look pretty clean, but god dang, man.
Holy piranha shooting ice balls! Talk about fan service!
Oh great, of course a top 10 that hit 1 million views is going to be on this list, and sadly this isn't the only one that's making the cut. The concept of the top 10 I think is still pretty interesting. I also remember putting in a lot of research into making this. The intro was also really well made, and I got to collab with the Spirit, a character that used to play a big role on my channel several years ago, and recently made a cameo in an NB original. Unfortunately, I was very lazy with the production quality of the video, and it kinda ruins the whole thing. A good chunk of this footage is just a mess of pixels, and I'm not even over-exaggerating. Like, look at this. I remember recording this myself with a really old crappy capture card, and I didn't even bother to recapture the footage. This is seen throughout a lot of the video, and it's just really distracting to look at. I also think putting Wario and Waluigi on there was kind of a bad idea. That definitely upset a lot of people, and they aren't even that annoying. A big problem that I have with this video is the abrupt endings before moving on to the next thing on the list. Oftentimes, it seems like I'm going to keep talking about something and then the transition just pops up out of nowhere. But I consider it annoying because it affects those surrounding him in ways that would just be irritating.
Number 6.
I didn't think it was that big a deal at the time, but looking back, it's just kind of jarring, and I'm glad I've gotten a bit better at that. I guess if you were to simply listen to the video, then it wouldn't be too bad, outside of a few really corny jokes I threw in there. Oh dear God. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to the Dark Top 10 Age of 2016. If you're new to my channel, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. Around January to June of 2016, I was making one top 10 video a week. Not only that, but I was also going to college full-time, was in a relationship, and had little to no help with these top 10s. Nowadays, I'm fortunate enough to have editors to help with some of my videos, but back then it was basically just me. Because I was pushing out so many top 10s at once, they just got worse and worse and worse. So to start, we have the Games Grabber ad. This was the first sponsored deal I ever had on my channel, and it was because of them I was even able to be financially stable at the time, so I'll always appreciate them for that, but I have to wonder why the people that work there didn't question my ads. They were so cringy. What I would do is spend like 2 minutes thinking about what the ad would be and then make it right on the spot. There was no real thought put into it, and I did a horrible job promoting their product. I've learned a lot more now about how to make sponsored content, but back then I just didn't have the time to craft it properly and wasn't criticized on what I was doing wrong either. And we haven't even got to the video yet. Alright, so the worst stages in Melee. For the most part, I still agree with all the stages I put on my list. I think most of my choices aren't that fun to play on and can still be considered pretty bad. The problem is that I picked some fan favorite stages, like Poke Floats as an example. A lot of people got upset about that, which honestly still shocks me. But I don't think it was my choices that were the real creak, it was the execution of the video. I used to go way overboard with the narration, my voice would just get as squeaky as a dog toy, and I substituted actual jokes with dead memes or they were just tasteless. For number 10, I threw in this visual joke where a text box with a Shrek and a D pops up when I die from the barrel saying Shrek'd. Nobody's brain even has time to process the joke because it's only on the screen for like half a second. This was a very common problem in my older videos. The visual cues were never on the screen long enough. And I also dropped a he needs some milk joke.
Crate in the back though looks freaking pissed. He needs some milk.
The last thing I'll comment on is how sensitive I was to admitting I used items in Smash Bros. I very subtly mentioned this in one of my more recent top 10s, but back then I went out of my way to get the competitive viewers upset for no reason.
And if you have items on, good on you for not joining the dark side of competitiveness.
Okay, I've had enough of this. And here's another video that's reached over 1 million views. I couldn't tell you why, to be honest. This top 10 was all about the best and worst Mario Kart items. Now right off the bat, just looking at the date of release, you can already tell that this list is gonna be outdated. The Super Horn wasn't in existence yet, and it's certain that that would be on the best portion of this top 10. But anyway, the main issue with this video is my choices and my reasons for picking them. I still think my best list is okay, but I'm not sure why I put the golden mushrooms so far up. Obviously the mushrooms are great, but they aren't nearly as good as the chain chomp, yet I placed it above for some reason. But then there's the worst side of my list. First off, I didn't include coins at all. Now you might think, well, that's because I made this before Mario Kart 8 announced it even had coins. But coins were also an item in Super Mario Kart and weren't much of a snag in that game too, so I don't know. I also didn't include the fake item box, which is objectively worse than the green shell and banana because A, they don't block incoming items, and B, are usually pretty easy to spot from the real ones, depending on the game. And honestly, green shells and bananas aren't even bad items. Sure, they aren't that great for attacking people, but they're perfect for defending yourself and holding first or second place. But of course, the biggest item I missed was the Thundercloud. My thinking at the time was that the Thundercloud gives you a nice little boost and the shrinking wasn't that big a deal. I don't know, I must have not even played Mario Kart Wii to test it out, because man, this item is just garbage. A couple other annoying things about this video, I went on for like 3 weeks about why bananas are supposedly slippery to slip on. I mean, that segment just really dragged on. Watching this video over just makes me want to remake it, so don't be surprised if you see a remake of this top 10 sometime this year. Oh no. We've returned to the Dark Top 10 Age of 2016 with a little video about the coolest Sonic characters. I still pretty vividly remember putting this one together, seeing as it was only about 2 years ago. I was really starting to feel burned out on making these once a week, so I decided to just go crazy and make a satirical list. The entire list features all the lamest and worst Sonic characters, and I sarcastically, in quotations, talk about why they're just so cool. A lot of the problems from the worst Melee stages list apply here. My narration goes way overboard, the meme jokes make me want to die, and because it's a satirical video, the boundary was pushed way too hard. I went with every overused Sonic joke in the book, including Big the Cat and his frog, Amy and her obsession with Sonic, Sticks from Sonic Boom, and so on and so forth. Let's run through every single time I threw up a horrible meme or didn't make a picture big enough for anyone to see.
And everyone else was just like, okay. And how could we forget the amazing Pico Pico Hammer? Guess what Pico Pico stands for? It stands for love. Aww. And Mario and Sonic at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games. Hype. Vector is known for being loud and obnoxious. Two bros. Yeah, like the Fine Bros. Everyone's favorite YouTubers. Yeah. I mean, Tony Hawk doesn't count either. He rides his boards on wheels, and that's just lame.
And the payoff at the end is such a cop-out. I literally just threw up Sonic at the end, said he was cool, and that was it. Maybe some people people found that funny, but looking back, I could have done something way more clever. And to finish off, I also had some issues with the video quality. For Shadow the Hedgehog, the footage would stutter at times. I remember that I used to have a pretty weak computer back then, and it wasn't really capturing footage that smoothly. Whoa, wait a minute. My video was supposed to have the lamest Sonic characters, yet I put Shadow in here, who is considered cool? Oh my god, I'm so confused. Alright, this is the last top 10 from the Dark Top 10. Yeah, you get it, whatever. This top 10 was on the coolest Mario enemies. Like the other Dark Age videos, a lot of the same problems can apply here, but this was just one of the worst written ones I've ever had. Just the name coolest Mario enemies screams, hey, I'm out of ideas. I guess we'll start with the usual Games Grabber ad. It's not quite as cringy as the other ones, but it's still nothing that would entice people to check out the website. Now, as you may know, lots of YouTubers tend to add fluff or filler to their videos to reach that 10-minute mark. I've definitely done this myself, I'm not gonna lie, and I didn't even hit that with this top 10, but man, I really tried. It's something that I don't really do anymore, as half of my videos are now under 10 minutes, but I really pushed for that back in 2016. The problem here was just the video topic. There isn't a lot to say about basic Mario enemies without adding filler. Like, I spent way too long saying it's fun to say the words Flame Chomp.
Man, that's just fun to say. Like, seriously, say it out loud with me. Flame Chomp. Sounds so edgy.
Then out of nowhere, I start talking about a circus for number 9, and it just goes on, and it serves no purpose to the top 10 itself. Which, to an extent, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with adding jokes or puns, but they don't make sense in the context of what I was talking about. Outside of these additional points, all the same problems can be found here like in my other Dark Age top 10 videos. Overusage of memes, squeaky talking, and all that nonsense. Oh boy, this is an old classic. My list on the hardest Mario Kart Wii tracks. I remember this being one of the first top 10s I made using an Elgato capture card, so the video quality was starting to increase more around this time. Well, outside of this intro. Like seriously, I just slapped random crap on the screen and called it a day. There is just one tiny little problem with this top 10. Just looking at the footage, you may have already figured it out yourself. I was playing with automatic drifting. So literally, all of my problems with the tracks, saying that the turns are too sharp or just unfair, are caused because I wasn't manually drifting. Because all my logic was based off of this, pretty much all of my reasons for the tracks make no sense whatsoever. Now that's not to say all of my choices are bad, like obviously things like Bowser's Castle, Rainbow Road make sense to be here, but I didn't even bother to try manual drifting back then. And honestly, I was over-exaggerating a lot of stuff that I was saying. Like for Mushroom Gorge, I talked about how hard it was to bounce around on the mushrooms, and I even purposefully played bad to show my point, but honestly, they aren't that much of a hassle. This is one of the few times I've played a game bad on purpose to exaggerate a point, and it didn't even help drive my point at all, just made me look like an idiot. And then there's the problem of referencing trends, like when I talked about Moonview Highway.
This track is on more steroids than everyone on Lance Armstrong's bike team.
That didn't make any sense to you, did it? And that's the problem with making jokes to trending topics. Nobody will know what you're talking about after a few months, which just dates a video that shouldn't have to feel dated. Which I guess is fine in some circumstances, but for this kind of top 10, it shouldn't feel dated at all. And then there's probably my most horrible moment ever, the jack-off bridge scene.
My favorite part of this track is the jack-off bridge.
Well, here we go. Come on. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, there's more, but that's all I'm playing, okay? Oh my god, how many people have seen 1 million? And now, we're really getting into the top 10s where almost nothing goes right at all, starting with the top 10 Mario games. And no, I'm not talking about the updated version I put out in 2017. I mean the really, really old one. Right off the bat, I talk about the guidelines for the top 10 and said that as long as I can play as Mario, it counts. So what did that lead to? A Mario sports game, Smash Bros, Mario Party, and Mario Kart being thrown into the video. I don't know why I thought those guidelines were a good idea. I also promoted my other videos way too much to the point that it made me look bad. And more annoying is the audio. Like, it sounds okay, but there's so many moments where I didn't even bother to cut out silence, so there's awkward pauses all over the video. Of all the top 10s we've talked about before this one, most of the choices make some sort of sense at the very least, but then there's this video. I put Super Mario 3D World as number 2 on the list. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a fun game and all, but better than Mario Sunshine and Mario Galaxy games? I don't think so. I remember doing this because I had literally just finished Mario 3D World and didn't really reflect on where it actually belonged on the list. I was just so excited about a new Mario game that I just put it near the top. And on top of that, I didn't even play Mario 3 or Mario World on the list, and you want to know why? Because I had never played them before. Yep, I was that lazy. But now, let's move on to the number 1 pick. At number 1, we have the first top 10 I ever made. This may be a bit unfair to myself because this was my first attempt, but man, I did a pretty piss poor job. The biggest flaw, of course, is that I didn't have a capture card of any kind, so I just recorded my TV with my camera. I didn't even crop out the video that well. I mean, sure, it was recorded in the dark, but you can still see that it's a TV. I also said all of my lines with my camera microphone outside. Yes, I literally recorded the audio outside in the backyard. You can hear crickets chirping in the background because it was at nighttime.
How is anybody supposed to think of looking under there? You're surprised to even be reaching the final Bowser. You're too worried about fighting him. Who in their right mind is going to think of looking under some stairs for a coin?
And then to the list itself. A lot of the stars I claim to be hard really aren't that hard if you know what you're doing. I think if you're going to make a top 10 of this nature, you should have full knowledge of what you're talking about before diving into it. But in this case, I really didn't. Like, I put Blast Away the Wall, Watch for Falling Rocks, and the freaking Princess Peach's slide on here, and said it was hard because I didn't know how to get to them at first. And then there was the over-exaggerations. Oh, I spent 2 hours, 4 hours getting this star, when I honestly didn't. Exaggerating time can be used for comedic effect, but I wasn't trying to be funny in this case, so it just makes me look like a liar. And after all that complaining, at the end I praise the game like it's the best thing ever.
But, to be fair, this is probably one of the best games ever made.
But with that, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and I'm gonna get going. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll speak with you all soon.